Okay, so here is part 3 of getting the Little Mermaid. Did I show you this picture? I don't remember, so sorry. Here we go. Here's part 3. Now the Little Mermaid came to a large, slimy marsh in the woods, where big, fat water snakes were rolling in the mirror, showing their hideous, whitish, yellow bellies. In the middle of the marsh stood a house built with the bones of shipwrecked human folk. There sat the sea witch, letting a toad feed from her mouth, just the way people sometimes feed a canary with a piece of sugar. She called the hideous water snakes her little chicks and let them crawl over her chest. I know exactly what you're after, said the sea witch. How stupid of you, but you shall have your way, and it will bring you misfortune, my pretty princess. You want to get rid of your fish tail and in its place have a couple of stumps to walk on like human beings, so that the prince will fall in love with you and you can win an immortal soul. And with that the witch let out such a laugh, loud repulsive laugh, that the toad and the snakes fell and went sprawling on the ground. You've come at just the right time, said the witch. Tomorrow, once the sun is up, you would not be able to help. I would not be able to help you for another year. I shall prepare you a drink. You will have to swim to land in before sunrise, to sit down on shore and swallow it. Your tail will have divided into and shrink into what human beings call pretty legs, but it will hurt. It will feel like a sharp sword is passing through you. You and all who see you will say that you're the loveliest little human being they have ever seen. You will keep your graceful movements. No dancer will ever glide so lightly, but every step you will take will make you feel as if you were treading on a sharp knife, enough to make your feet bleed, as if you are prepared to endure all that I can help you. Yes, said the Little Mermaid. Her voice trembled, but she turned her thoughts to the prince and the prize of an immortal soul. Think about it carefully, said the witch. Once you take a form of a human, you can never go back again. You can never again be a mermaid. You won't be able to swim down through the water to your sisters and your father's palace. The only way you can get an immortal soul is to win the prince's love and make him willing to forget his father and mother for your sake. You must always have in his thoughts. He must have you always in his thoughts, and allow the priest to join your hands to become man and wife. If the prince marries someone else, the morning thereafter your heart will break and you will become foam on the crest of the waves. I'm ready, said the Little Mermaid as she turned pale as death. But you will have to pay me, said the witch. You're not getting my help for nothing. You have the loveliest voice of anyone who dwells down here at the bottom of the sea. You probably will think that you can charm the prince with that voice, but you will have to give it to me. I am going to demand the best thing you possess as the price for my potion. You see, I have to mix some of my own blood to drink so that the drink will be as sharp as a double-edged sword. But if you take away my voice, said the Little Mermaid, what will I have left? Your lovely figure, said the witch, your graceful movements, and your expressive eyes. With those you can easily enchant a human heart. Well, where's your courage? Put out your little tongue and let me cut it off, my payment. Then you shall have the powerful potion. So be it, said the little mermaid, and the witch placed her cauldron on the fire and hired to brew the magic potion. Cleanliness before everything, she said, as she scorned the vessel of the bundle of snakes she had tied together in a knot. Then she pricked her finger herself in the chest and let the black blood drop into the cauldron. The steam that rose created strange shapes terrifying to behold. The witch kept tossing fresh things into the cauldron, and when the brew began to boil, it sounded like a crocodile sweeping. At last the magic potion was ready, and it took just like clear water. There you go, said the witch as she cut off the little mermaid's tongue. The little mermaid was now dumb, and she could neither speak nor sing. If the polyps should seize you as you return through the wood, said the witch, just throw a single drop of the potion on them, and their arms and fingers will be torn into a thousand pieces. But the little mermaid had no need for that. The polyps shrank back in terror when they caught sight of the glittering potion that shone in her hand like a twinkling star, and so she passed quickly through the wood, the marsh, and roaring whirlpools. The little mermaid could see her father's palace. The light in the ballroom were out. Everyone there was sure to be asleep by this time, but she did not dare to go in to see them, for now she was dumb and about to leave them forever. She felt as if her heart were going to break from grief. She stole into the garden, took one flower from the beds of each of her sisters, blew 1,000 kisses toward the palace, and then rose up through the dark blue waters. The sun had not yet risen when she caught sight of the prince's palace and climbed to the marble steps. The moon was shining and bright. The little mermaid drank the sharp burning potion, and it seemed as if a double-edged sword was passing through her delicate body. She fainted and fell down as if dead. Whew. The sun rose and, shining across the sea, woke her up. She felt a sharp pain, but there in front of her stood the handsome prince. He fixed his coal-black eyes on her earnestly, that she cast down her own and realized her fishtail was gone, and she had a pretty pair of white legs, as a young girl could wish for. But she was quite naked, and so she wrapped herself with her long flowing hair. The prince asked whom she was and how she had come there, and she could only gaze back at him sweetly and sadly with her deep blue eyes, for of course she could not speak. Then he took her by his hand and led her to the palace. Every step she took, as the witch had predicted, made her feel as if she was treading on sharp knives and needles. But she willingly endured it. She walked as lightly as a bubble by the prince's side. The prince and all who saw her marveled at the beauty of her graceful movements. She was given costly dresses of silk and muslin as she arrived. She was the most beautiful creature in the palace, but she was dumb and could neither speak nor sing. Beautiful slave girls dressed her in silk and gold came out and danced before the prince and his royal parents. One sang more beautifully than the others, and the prince clapped his hands and smiled at her. This saddened the little mermaid, for she knew that herself could dancing far more beautifully, and she thought, "Oh, if only he knew that I gave my voice away forever in order to be with him." The slave girls then danced a graceful gliding dance to the most enchanting music, and the little mermaid raised her lovely white arms, stood on the tips of her toes, and glided across the floor, dancing as no one had danced before. She looked more and more lovely with every step, and her eyes appealed more deeply to the heart than did the singing of the slave girls. Everyone was enchanted, especially the prince, who called her his little foundling. She kept on dancing, even though it felt like she were treading on sharp knives every time her foot touched the ground. The prince said that she must never leave him, and she was given permission to sleep outside his door. And a door on a velvet cushion. Oh, little does he know that I am the one who saved his life, thought the little mermaid. I carried him across the sea to the temple of the woods, and I waited in the foam for someone to come and help. I saw the pretty girl that he loves better than he loves me, and the mermaid sighed deeply, for she did not know how to shed tears. He says the girl belongs to the holy temple, and that she will therefore never return to the world. They will never meet again. I am by his side, and I see him every day. I will take care of him and love him and give him my life for him. Not long after, there was talk that the prince would marry, and that the beautiful daughter of the neighboring kingdom would be his wife. And that was why he was bringing out a splendid ship. The prince was going to pay a visit to the neighbor at a neighboring kingdom. That was how they put it, meaning that he was going to look at his neighbor. Oh, I got an Instagram notice. Sorry. Anyway. Kingdom, that was how they put it, meaning that he was going to look at his neighbor's daughter. He had a large outrage, but the little mermaid shook her head and laughed. She knew the prince's thoughts far better than anyone else. I shall have to go, he told her. I have to visit the beautiful princess because my parents insist upon it. But they cannot force me to bring her back here as my wife. I could never love her. She is not at all like the beautiful girl in the temple, whom you resemble. If I were forced to choose a bride, I would rather choose you, my dear mute foundling, with the expressive eyes. And he kissed her rosy mouth, played with her long hair, and laid his head upon her heart, so that it dreamed of human happiness and an immortal soul. You are not afraid of the sea, are you, my dear mute girl? He asked as they stood on deck of the splendid ship that was carrying them to the neighboring kingdom. And he told her of powerful storms and dead calms, of the strange fishes in the deep, and that divers had seen down there. She smiled at his tales, for she knew better than anyone else about the wonders of the bottom of the sea. At night, when there was an unclouded moon and everyone was asleep but the helmsman at his wheel, the little mermaid sat by the ship railing, gazing down through the clear water. She thought she could see her father's palace, with her old grandmother standing on top of it, with a silver crown on her head, gazing through the swift current at the keel of the vessel. Then her sisters came up on the waves and looked at her with eyes full of sorrow, wringing their white hands. She beckoned to them and smiled, and would have liked to tell them that she was happy and that all was going well for her. But the cabin boy came up just then, and the sisters dove down, so that the boy was sure that the white something he had seen was only foam in the water. The next morning the ship sailed into the harbor of the neighboring king's magnificent capital. The church bells were ringing from the towers. You could hear a flourish of trumpets. Soldiers saluted the gleaming bayonets and flying colors. Every day there was a festival. Balls and entertainments followed one another, but the princess had not yet appeared. People said that she was being brought up and educated in the holy temple where she was learning all the royal virtues. At last she arrived. The little mermaid was eager for a glimpse of her beauty, and she had to admit that she had never seen a more charming person. Her skin was clear and delicate, and behind long, dark eyelashes, her laughing blue eyes shone with deep sincerity. Oops, wrong one. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video here because it's getting long, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next part. Bye! Bye, thank you.